far the best chapter that we've had this year. We've got so many things to talk about. We've got character deaths to talk about. We've got a slight bit of story progression. But anyways, let's dive more into that right after that intro. Hello everybody, what's going on? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shimigami X, aka Captain X, leader of Squad X, and I'm here today to give you my review of Bleach chapter 572 entitled The Blaster. Alright, now, like I said previously, this is one of, if not the best chapters that we've had this year so far. We're in March now, so not too many chapters have gone by, but nonetheless, let's get into this. Now, something that I liked in this chapter in particular was the fact that we had some character deaths, and it's about damn time, because since this 1000-year Blood War arc has started, we haven't had many significant deaths in terms of the Shinigami. Yes, we've had Old Man Yamamoto dying, which was a significant death in its own. Then we had the whole controversy with Byakuya and Kenpachi being in a coma, etc, etc, losing to the fake Juha. All of that is all said done in the past, but besides that, what captains have we had that has died? We haven't had any. But in this chapter we see the deaths of Kensei and Rose, which Kensei was one of my favourite captains, so it's a shame to see him go, but nonetheless I do think it is good that we finally see some deaths on the side of the Shinigami, finally reinstating that these Quincy's are a threat. Because we've had so little character deaths in the past several chapters, it kind of took away the whole fear factor of the Quincy's. It made them seem to be less of a threat, it made them seem to be less intimidating, like they're actually going to cause some kind of trouble, because it seemed like Kubo was going with a particular formula where, a Shinigami would fight a Quincy, and Quincy put their back up against the wall, that Shinigami would either go Bankai, or, somebody else would come in and save the day, which is something that is still a method that was used in this chapter review, but it was a monkey wrench was thrown into it, where we see the death of Kensei and Rose. Also, let's dive into this whole new Star Knight. This person's quite evidently a Star Knight. Initially, I thought it was a girl, but we can see by the character design, when we see the character's legs, that he's wearing sneakers. This person's obviously a boy. So, nonetheless, let's talk about this some more. Gwinnell, which is originally Star Knight V, which is Star Knight V, with now deceased, said something that kind of interested me in this chapter, where he said that, oh, I did my best, didn't I? But then this Star Knight says that, yes, you did do your best, my product of my fantasy. And then this Star Knight goes on to explain to Yachiru, who attacks him and quite evidently fails, that the way his powers work is that basically anything that he somewhat imagines can come to pass. So for example, he turned her bones into like cookies, which is why they just broke under the weight of the sword. Naturally, the weight of the sword having cookie dough bones is just not going to work, it's going to snap. So with all that being said, I did think it was kind of like, that is probably one of the most hacked powers I've ever seen in the Bleach universe. Like, simply something that you imagine can come to pass. But I wonder if the condition behind it is that basically they have to have a stronger Reiatsu than that person, because otherwise, couldn't she just do the same thing to Kenpachi, who we see at the end of this chapter? And having Kenpachi back is something that we've been anticipating for a long time. Because the last time we saw Kenpachi was when he learned the name of his Shikai. So now, with the next chapter, I believe that, I believe Kenpachi's not even going to reveal the name of his Shikai just as yet. I believe he's going to go do his normal brutish thing where he just fights without using his Shikai. And then when his back is pushed up against the wall because this person's powers are very unique, I then see him releasing his Shikai. I do not see Zaraki Kenpachi having a Bankai. I do believe he's obviously at the ability to be able to obtain Bankai, but even if he has obtained Bankai, he sure as hell hasn't mastered it, similar to the cases we saw with Rukia in the previous chapters. Alright, but as for the rest of the chapter, I thought it was a very solid chapter overall. Like, quite a lot happened. This new Star Knight's powers are just, it's insane, it's hacked, and it makes you wonder how can they possibly be defeated. And also, I did like what this other Star Knight said, is that, Yachiru went to attack this Star Knight with her Shikai, but then obviously it failed and dodged it. And she quite bluntly told her that, you know what, you expect that I'm not going to be able to dodge your attack when you broadcast what your powers are in the middle of enemy territory. Like, Kubo really needs to find a new way for, to tell us the powers of, whoever the person is that was revealing their powers at that time, because this whole method of, doing it in the middle of battle so that the opponent now knows what you're doing is getting kind of old, it's getting kind of boring, and to be honest with you, I'm getting kind of sick of it, because it's not strategic, and it's becoming somewhat predictable. So that's one of the things I can say I didn't like about this chapter, is that the flow of these last several chapters, or even the battles that have taken place in the Thousand Year Blood War arc thus far, are somewhat predictable and repetitive. Whereas, you know, a battle will take place, Shinigami would, you know, fight Quincy, get their back pushed up against the wall, either would release Bankai if they have a Bankai, or get knocked out and then somebody else will come and save the day and defeat that Star Knight. It's getting somewhat predictable and somewhat boring. So I'm glad that we had some character deaths thrown into the mix, you know, mix it up, because I thought that was something that just needed to happen to like break this you know, continuous cycle, because I'm pretty sure that any good reviewer was able to predict what was going to happen in this chapter. The Elite Eight predicted that Zaraki Kenpachi would come back. Charles Anime World predicted that, you know, basically that Yachi would have her back pushed up against the wall, that either Kenpachi would come and save her, or that, you know, she'd either reveal a Bankai. And obviously the latter of the former of the two happened. So it just becomes somewhat predictable, and that is something that takes away from the chapter. But nonetheless, it is a very good chapter overall, and it was something that was needed. It was a refreshing break to finally get some character deaths. But what did really interest me, and the thing that interested me the most, even more than Zaraki Kenpachi's return, is, as I stated earlier, where she said like basically that Gunnell, Star Knight V, was a product of her fantasy. So basically was her own creation. So is she the original Star Knight V? So if that's the case, maybe the V actually stands for something else. But I actually think that isn't the case, simply because Star Knight V Gunnell actually stated what the V stands for, which was Vanishing Point. His powers clearly tied in with that, and it made perfect sense. So now it makes me wonder, like, okay, what is this person, this Star Knight's ability is? Like, what is it? Eye for imagination? I don't know. Have we even had an eye yet? Who knows? But anyways, guys, this seems like a very short review, because I think I covered all the bases and I covered all my thoughts and things I'm gonna expect to happen. So now, as for next chapter, what do I see happening? Quite bluntly, what I think is going to happen, we're going to see the reveal of Zaraki Kenpachi Shikai after a somewhat prolonged battle between him, you know, just using his you know, normal sword as he used to back in the day. I will say this though, I wonder if Zaraki Kenpachi's Shikai, you know how it's all jagged around the edges, I wonder if now that he's learned the name of his Zanpakuto, if those edges are going to be cleaned up. Who knows? But anyways, but I somewhat doubt that, because Zaraki Kenpachi still has this somewhat ragged look to him, you know, like with his hair and his clothes, they still seem like somewhat ragged and somewhat tattered and stuff, which is Zaraki Kenpachi's traditional design, quite ragged, tattered and battered, which is to do with his whole origin story of how he got the Captain's Hiyori, etc, etc, but we all know that, and that's nothing to do with this chapter. So, with all that being said, guys, I hope you've enjoyed my chapter review. It's your boy Shimigami X, aka Captain X. I'm signing out, and as always, my people, take care. Peace.